is a brand new week of Village Vice. He's Zach
Yes.
Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Look, this week can't be as active in the portal for Auburn football as last week. Just can't, won't happen. Don't expect it. No chance. Right?
You trying
Right?
to jinx it? I think you're trying to jinx it a little bit. That's
Yeah,
the vibe I'm getting right now.
It's reverse psychology is what we're trying to do. It's what we're trying to throw out there because I'll tell you, if Auburn has another week like it did last week, look out even more. I mean, we already think the team's improved its win total probably for 2024 based on what happened last week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there are the guys out there yet that could improve you as much as were last week. Let's get into that a little bit here, Zach. And kind of the bulk of today's episode is going to be, is the roster finished? Is the house built? Can you move in now? Or is there still some work to do?
Yeah, I think it's a situation where like maybe they finished the master bedroom and the master bathroom suite and maybe the kitchen and maybe they're still working on a little bit of the upstairs, but you can live there.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the scenario I would go with. I just can't imagine. There's not a glaring weakness on the roster at this point. I do think you can circle some positions and say this could be a little bit better, or from a rotational standpoint, like this isn't as deep as you would want it to be. Like it's not perfect, but at some point you've got to ask the question, like when you look out into the spring portal and it's like, okay, there's a lot of guys there. That number's really big, but as far as guys that make your roster better or your top 22 guys that start on Saturdays, like, are there guys in the portal that are better than your top 22?
Yeah.
And I don't think there is. There may be a few situations where you can make an argument, but as a general rule, I don't think Auburn's really pursuing anybody in that regard at this point because there's not that many guys left out there. There still are some positions that, like, from a program standpoint, I think would make sense. Clearly, they feel good about Holden Geriner staying because they've been really quiet on the quarterback trail, which was a little bit of a surprise, but as the way, the fact that he did enter the portal, it makes sense why they're staying true with their four guys that they've got. Outside of that, it makes sense what they've done at receiver. Offensive line, they're staying put. Maybe add another defensive end. I think that would make sense unless you feel really good about Amaris Williams, or you just feel like Keldrick Falk can play 50 snaps a game, which you probably do. You probably do feel that way. And then linebacker, which makes sense. And you can talk about the guy they're bringing in tomorrow on an official visit. Like that makes sense because all of your linebackers are either old or very young or they're Robert Woodyard. And so, like, do you want another guy who's kind of got an eligibility situation similar to Robert Woodyard so you have depth next year as well? Like that would make sense. Outside of that, like there's not a glaring issue with this roster right now.
Yeah, I agree. And not to go just literally down the line position by position, that could be a little boring, but let's highlight a couple of, or let's look at it this way. Do you feel like you're missing a capable starter at any position on the field? I know what people are screaming right now. We're going to talk about that at a later time. We have all summer to.
What are people screaming? Quarterback?
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, I've read the comments.
There's not a quarterback in the portal better than Peyton. There's not.
There you go. Yeah, that's what we have to keep in mind here is we're talking about, is the roster done? And when I ask the question, do you feel like you're set, you're starting 11 on offense, starting 11 on defense, or is there somebody out there in the portal that's better than a current projected starter?
Yeah, if Auburn starts the game in 12 personnel, maybe another tight end. I don't love the tight end room this year after Rivaldo. I like Micah Riley and I like Rico Walker long-term. I don't know if I love them this year. But outside of that, no, I think you're good. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I feel good about the guards. I feel good about the center. I feel you've already brought in a guy to start at left tackle. And you feel good about, Xavier Miller at right tackle. So offensively, I think you're fine. Defensively, I think you've done what you needed to do in the portal. And I don't see guys out there that are going to come in and automatically take a starting spot. You can make the argument that they took care of a missing starting wide receiver last week, potentially.
Sure.
No, I think you're good first line. You get into second team and third team depth pieces. Do you feel like there's anybody in the portal now that would be better than for example, one of these young freshmen that are coming in that are a part of this star-studded class. Because I think on the defensive line, as we talked last week, now those guys don't have to be in the first rotation. They can be the second rotation.
Yeah.
Battle to be in the first rotation of guys, certainly on the defensive front. Your secondary's got a lot of people. Maybe linebacker. You need depth there. And if you've got the spots, you're okay if you've got a lot of bodies in the linebacker room.
Yeah, and we've talked about the importance of balancing, eligibility and decisions, because you don't want to bring in a guy who has 3 years left of eligibility, and while you're promising these star freshmen that they're the guy next year. And so at some point, it's like I don't care if they do add another linebacker or not. I understand why you would want to. Yeah. I understand why you would certainly want to do that, but I'm not heartbroken.
Especially Zach, with Wesley Steiner entering the portal, you're one body down now. You're -1 where you were 2 weeks ago coming out of spring.
Yeah, and like in an emergency situation, I think you could move Joe Phillips back to linebacker. There was talk about him playing linebacker anyway.
Yeah.
So that could be something. You've got some larger safeties, and you've got a bunch of them. Could you walk a certain guy up to play, I'm going to say linebacker, but you could just play more dime and walk certain guys up. Like, I don't think that would be an end of the world type situation, but still, I mean, we're talking about 6 linebackers right now before they add anyone, if they add anyone, with Mayusi, Asante, Keys, Woodyard, Riddick, and Barber. I just can't see a scenario where like 4 of those guys get hurt, and obviously you need multiple linebackers going into the game. We're talking worst case scenario here.
You're just talking depth.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a lot of bad things to happen to one position group to like be in that worst case scenario. It's possible. Auburn's kind of felt like they were in similar situations before, but I'm not upset with the state of this roster, especially based off of where they were at the end of the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And then when I think about the quarterback room, I think your depth is fine there. Yeah. Running backs, we barely talk running backs all year long because we all feel so good about the stacked depth there. And
them holding on to that entire running back room, Brad, like that it's not going to be discussed because it's boring and it appears uneventful from the outside looking in. But there's no way in this age where tampering is okay. There is no way all these guys didn't get phone calls. There's no way. I refuse to believe it. I don't believe it. They could all come out and say, yeah, no other schools called me. I wouldn't believe them. I just wouldn't.
Well, maybe the school didn't, but we all know how easy it is to,
right.
The school didn't call me, but a school's representative called somebody in my family. And that's the easiest thing in the world.
And I'm not mad about it. I mean,
right. It's the way it is. Everybody operates that way. Nick Saban admitted to it live on the air during NFL draft coverage.
Nick Saban retires and it's just like, he just doesn't care anymore. Wild stuff.
He didn't care. Hey, he didn't care all that much before he retired either, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, when you're invincible, what can you do?
That's exactly. Yeah, you're Teflon.
Yeah, that's right. But the fact that they kept this running back room together, and not to say too much, but like I think there was a belief that one of these guys was going to enter the portal. We had it pre-written. Some other folks had it pre-written. Where, thankfully, knock on wood, we haven't had to post it. So we'll. I just think that is a huge win that's going to go under discussed. But holding on and keeping this very, very good running back room together is a huge portal win.
I know a lot of the portal conversation centers around NIL, and I know that's a major part of today's college football roster building. I know that that's a big part. I would like to mention here, just kind of randomly throw this in, like the cherry on top of a pear salad, that it's not just NIL. Pear salad's disgusting, by the way. I can't believe we used to eat that as kids.
What is it? What is pear salad? No.
Your grandmother never made pear salad? All right. You take a canned pear half. You put a dollop of mayonnaise on top. Yeah, I know. It's horrific. It gets worse. Sprinkle some cheddar cheese on top of that, and then you put a cherry on top of it. You didn't have, listen, in the country up in Calhoun County and Cherokee County, Alabama, especially 20 years ago, maybe not today, I don't know.
Yeah.
You didn't have a family gathering at any time without a big tray of pear salad.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
And people willingly ate that.
Oh yeah. No, as a kid, I thought it was terrific. I
Oh,
thought
you
was
liked
delicious.
it? Okay.
I couldn't wait to stack my plate full of little pear salads. Not as an adult though, because I reached the age of reason. Okay, where was I?
I'm trying to imagine what that would taste like. Like, pears are fine. Not my
Yeah.
favorite fruit, but they're fine. I like mayo. I love shredded cheese.
Yeah.
Cherries, once again, fine. We don't need to put them on milkshakes, but that's fine. Whatever. It's normal.
What's wrong with cherry on a milkshake?
I don't think anything's wrong with it. I just don't love it.
Okay.
Just don't love it. Just don't love cherries. But
Yeah.
all those together, that's just an interesting.
Why
I
don't
really thought about that before.
Why don't you try it today and then give everybody an update next time we have a show?
I don't have any cherries or mayo currently. I
Yeah.
think I actually have some canned pears. We'll see.
right.
We'll see what
All
we
right.
can do for research purposes.
All right. Let us know in the comments. Pear salad, thumbs up, thumbs down, or never heard of it. Maybe you come from a big city and you didn't do this when you were a kid. All right. The point that I was going to make, sorry, is that it's not.
You know what? Normally I would say you don't have to apologize. You need to apologize for that. So
Yeah.
apology accepted.
Totally derailed the conversation. All right. It's not just NIL packages. It's what I'm talking about here. I think Hugh Freeze is still very old school when it comes to creating a culture. I think Auburn is still Auburn when it comes to its facilities.
Yeah.
And I think you look at the roster and what they're building, and you look at the environment they play in the stadium, and kind of the vision for what the program is headed toward. And I think there are a lot of attractive things besides NIL packages that factor in, and are a big reason why Auburn has had the success in the portal that it's had so far this year. Better success this year than it had, at least on paper, this time last year.
Yeah, and once again, portal success can also be nothing happening to the current state of your roster. The incumbency, I think, is important here. And we said this before, and I think it's important to add the caveat whenever you talk about the portal, is there's a million reasons why somebody may want to jump into the portal or stay. An Auburn degree may be important to folks. The coaching staff relationships may be important to folks. The interaction with the fan base and the students and just your overall quality of life. It's important. It's important. And Auburn is able to offer a lot of attractive things beyond NIL and beyond just being able to play football here. And those are two very competitive things as well, as far as a football program and as far as NIL. So, no, well said. Well said. Speaking of a million reasons, there's a million reasons why people may want to get a little rowback action.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you 20 specific ones right now. You ready? 20% off your first order at rowback.com. That's RHOBACK. Yeah. Rowback.com. Performance polos, performance hoodies. They're insanely comfortable. They're stylish. The prints they have on the polos are perfect for spring and summer. And you just won't find a more comfortable polo out there than the Rowback Performance Polo. So get one of those. Hey, put one of everything in your cart, or just select one item. But if you use our promo code VICE20, that's the important part. When you go to checkout and it asks you for the promo code, put in VICE20, VICE20 at rowback.com. You'll get 20% off. It's a generous offer. And once you get started, you're going to thank us for it. And you're going to look and feel better because you'll be wearing Rowback.
Brad, when you look at, okay, what else could Auburn add? We talked about, we kind of teed up the linebacker, and this is an interesting guy. Remind me his name. It's already escaped me.
Khalil Jacobs.
Khalil Jacobs has 2 years left of eligibility. He's from South Alabama. And I guess just the natural nature of the situation ties him to Alabama to being the favorite because of Womack, who was the head coach at South Alabama. Now is one of the several defensive coordinators that are at Alabama. I thought you'd like that. I thought they'd get a smile out of you, Brad.
Is it Womack or is it Womack?
So I used to say Womack.
Yeah, I think you still should.
I got aggressively corrected.
From who? By who?
Somebody in Mobile.
Okay.
It's like a South Alabama guy.
What do they care?
I don't know.
They're probably going to like.
They're probably going to claim it though. Wouldn't you? If you were a South Alabama fan, wouldn't you claim it and be like, "Yeah, we still love that guy"?
I don't know. Some do, some don't. Some pretty happy to see him leave, quite frankly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I've seen similar things, but regardless.
Yeah. Okay.
Womack. Put it in the comments down below next to your Pear Salad comments.
Sure.
Boy, It's gonna be a salad of comments today for sure. I can't wait to hear it. But I think it makes sense. I mean, he seems like a pretty solid player. I love the idea of he's probably not a starter if he were to come to Auburn, but he could be next year. And so then you look at a room that would be him, Robert Woodyard, DeMarcus Riddick, and DJ Barber, plus freshmen and transfers that come in after that. And it's like that all that makes sense. All that makes sense as far as rebuilding the room for 2025 as well. But it's down to Auburn, Alabama, and Missouri appear to be the three schools that are kind of really leading for his services. And we'll see if Auburn is in it. But I've talked to a handful of folks, Brad. Auburn seems to like their chances for him. They're not too concerned about his relationship with his previous coach. Because if it's a bidding war, I think Auburn feels comfortable. I also think if it's I don't think it's going to come down to playing time, because I think it's a similar situation in all three schools. It appears to be my understanding. To me, I think it's going to be a little bit of a culture fit, as well as just kind of what can the program offer in the future.
Yeah. I think you're right. I was going to make the point that playing time's probably similar at both places. I don't know. I know Missouri had a lot of guys drafted. I don't know what their linebacker room looks like specifically, though.
Yeah, sure. The way they've recruited, though, across the board, like surprisingly well. Like that program is surprisingly built right now.
Yeah. So if he's not going to a place where he's immediately going to start and play 60 snaps, he was productive as a backup last year. And I did South Alabama's bowl game. I had a chance to do radio for their bowl game.
A little bit of a flex there?
No. A
little bit of a flex?
No, it's context is what it is.
Sure.
It's context. Yeah. And their game against Eastern Michigan. And he was impressive and spoken very highly of. It was a little surprising to me that he didn't play more, but he was productive with the snaps that he got, 30-something tackles. And he had 3 sacks and 3 forced fumbles on the year, too. So, and 8.5 tackles for loss.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of like maybe he could be Eugene Asante, like a Eugene Asante light almost, which I would take that on the roster.
100%. Yeah, and I was 56 tackles. He had 30-something assisted, 20-something solo, so 56 total tackles, which is good from a backup linebacker. That's very good production.
Who did they play in the bowl game?
They played Eastern Michigan.
What bowl game was this?
The 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile. They played it in their home stadium.
68 Ventures?
Yeah. Couldn't tell you what that is.
What kind of company is that?
Couldn't tell you.
You didn't have to do a million ad reads for them?
No.
Really? Okay.
They were all pre-recorded.
Oh, that's clutch.
I can tell you, though, playing in their home stadium against Eastern Michigan, which is like a tough, hard-nosed, slow team, South Alabama beat the ever-loving snot out of them. I mean, it was never close.
Got it.
Never close. Much more athletic team. And Kevin Steele was there, and we interviewed Kevin Steele because his son was on the staff.
Did he remember you?
Well, I didn't know. Our sideline guy interviewed him.
Got it.
He was affable and, charismatic and kind of what we remember him.
As you would expect.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
As you would expect.
Let me say this about whether or not Auburn adds another linebacker. I think every year you will find a Khalil Jacobs type player in the portal. So if you don't get this literal Khalil Jacobs, I think if you look at rebuilding the roster next year and for 2026, in fact, I kind of think that everything Auburn has added in the portal this period, I think you're going to find similar guys out there pretty much every year at those positions. And so I think when you look at building your roster, now you want to do that with fewer people every year because you like your young players coming in. But I think if you have a plan and you have the resources and you have the foundation like this staff is gathering, this is going to become a trend. You're going to be able to be very satisfied with how you put your roster together with guys out of the portal. I think you'll have the availability you need.
So I'm trying to think of one specific part you just said is like everybody they've added this window. There's going to be guys every year. And I'm just trying to find an argument against that. But like Philip Bleedy.
Maybe the leading receiver at Penn State.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not.
Yeah. I think that's it, though. Keandre Lambert-Smith, like you're not going to get the leading receiver for an offense that was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good.
But the team won 10 games. That's not insignificant.
Yeah, you take that for sure. You don't usually see those guys leave. But and
Right.
it sounds like it was an interesting situation there. But like your Philip Bleedies and your Isaiah Rakes, like, makes sense why they left their previous spots, and both of them have entered the portal now twice each. And then I guess the guy I'm going to push back on outside of Keandre Lambert-Smith is Kieran Crawford. Okay. Now, do I love Kieran Crawford, like, with everything inside of me? Yeah.
Clearly.
I really do. I really do.
In fact, I'd be a little concerned if I was Kieran Crawford that you're going to be lurking around a corner somewhere. I mean, you love Kieran Crawford.
Yeah, I want to give him an NIL deal.
Sure.
So he needs to message me back on Instagram.
That's fair. Kieran Crawford on Village Vice. Be great.
Come on.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think that about does it for today's show.
Kieran's keys. I can already hear it. It'd be fantastic.
Right, I'm gonna message him again. Him again.
Thanks everybody for watching. Pear Salad to the moon. Let's go. Remember, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.